following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Golenbock University. I'm Ralph Tycho with the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, and I have the privilege of introducing the host of the show, Peter Golenbock, who will in turn introduce the guest. Peter.
Yes, I will. Yes, Jack O'Halloran from Boston, a Boston boy. And, right? What part of Boston did you live in, Jack?
I lived in Back Bay, right at Gloucester and Newbury.
Oh, fantastic. And let me just skip ahead for a second. Jack ended up as a professional boxer. He defeated people like Cleveland Williams, Manuel Ramos, terrific boxers, almost ended up fighting Muhammad Ali. But let's not jump ahead of ourselves. Also, he was in Superman movies, which is just, I can't wait to talk to him about that because I love the Superman movies and I love Hollywood anyway. At any rate, so how coming from Boston does a kid end up in the boxing business to begin with?
Well, I was born in Philadelphia, and
okay.
I was raised up in Philly, New Jersey, and spent time in New York. And when I started boxing, then I was sent up to Boston. And
so let me ask you. You started boxing in Jersey?
In Philly.
In Philly. You started boxing in Philly. So did you use the police athletic league and all the rest of that?
No, I never boxed. I never put a glove on until I was like 22, 23 years old.
That's very
I played
unusual.
Football before that.
You played football?
Yeah.
Where did you play football?
I was up with the Jets, when I played ball, you couldn't play until your class graduated college.
Right.
So I come out of school early, and Webb Eubank grabbed me, and I went up and tried out with the Jets, and they liked what they saw, so they had like a farm system on the East Coast of semi-pro teams, and we played a couple games a week to keep our levels up.
What was the team? What was the team you played for?
Tinicum. Played with Dick Christie and his brother Jimmy Christie. And
wow. Who was your quarterback?
Oh, my God. Let me think a minute. He wound up playing in Philadelphia, actually.
Huh.
He was a pretty good ball player. There were several good ball players on that team, actually.
I'm sure. What year are we talking about here?
Talking about 1962, 63.
Wow.
64.
Wow. And so what prompted you to leave football?
Well, I was like I said, it was up at the Jet system, and there were a lot of fellas that I knew that were playing down in Philadelphia, and Philly had a pretty good team with Jurgensen and McDonald, and
right.
Tommy Woodishek was coming in, and there was a bunch of guys that I knew that were coming to play ball there, and so I said to Eubank, I'd like to go down to Philadelphia. He wants me to come down and take a shot down there. And he said, well, you always have a home here. If you don't like it down there, come back up. And then the team was sold to a guy, a young man from Pennsylvania, and he hired some guy called Q Harrick to train to coach it. And I watched this guy trade away a championship football team in about 2 months.
Wow.
Timmy Brown was an all-pro running back at the time.
That's
and
right.
He and I came out of the meeting, and Q Harrick walked right past us, and I turned around and said, you don't talk to players or something here? What's the bottom line? And he grumbled something, and I said, take this team and stick it, because Ali had just won the title, and I said to some friends of mine down in Philly that I said, I can beat him. And they said, good idea. And they put me in a gym, and 6 months later, I started boxing. My first fight was in Reading, Pennsylvania. Then I had a few fights in Philly, and then I had an altercation.
You're a big guy. You're a big guy to start with. You were what, 6'6"?
6'6", yeah.
And weighed 230?
Well, when I first started, when I was playing ball, I weighed 280, and then I went down. They took me down. I went down to about 230 pounds. I was shaking. I said, "Whoa, man!" So I boxed around. My first fight was at 228, and then I went up to about 35, and I stayed there for a long time.
Now somebody's got to teach you how to box. You can't just box.
Well, I was I had
clever.
some pretty good street fighting knowledge, and I did play around in Pat when I was a young kid, and then I had some pretty clever people around me that taught me a lot in the fighting game. And when I went into the gym, that was managed by a guy called Sam Margolis and Blinky Palermo.
Oh, whoa! Whoa!
They were
Blinky Palermo is part of the mob.
Well, Sam was the head of the Jewish mob, and Blinky was it. So they had listing, and they were very much embedded in the boxing game.
No question about it.
And there was a group.
This is the time for me to interject, and Jack, tell Peter who your dad was.
My father was a guy from New York called Albert Anastasia.
Okay.
So I was.
Oh my goodness!
I was when I went into boxing, I was already involved in my family business. So.
Okay.
So it was a day job, you know.
I can understand that. Yes. Yes. You didn't have lions in your basement, though, did you?
No.
No. Oh, that's good.
No.
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So okay. Excuse me if I'm flustered for a few minutes. You'll forgive me for that.
Hey, tell me what a lion is. Speaking of being flustered.
Well, one of the other great mobsters, he kept a lion in his basement, and if somebody didn't, if they borrowed money from him, and I can't remember his name, but he was a very rather famous mobster, lived in I believe in Brooklyn, and if somebody owed him money and they came to him and said it's time for you to pay up. And if guy would say, "Oh, I don't have the money, I can't pay you right now," his goons would take them into the basement and put him face to face with that lion, which would scare him sufficiently that one way or the other he would pay up. And that's that story. Yeah. I wish I could remember his name.
I stand educated. Wow, indeed.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's why like when I left boxing and went into the movie business, and the first film that I ever did was Farewell, My Lovely, and on the film there was a guy from New York who had a crew of actors that he would bring as for small bit parts. His name was oh geez, I can see his face, Joe Spinelli, and one of the guys was Stallone. Stallone was one of Stallone's first pictures.
Oh, for heaven's sake!
He came out with Jimmy Archer's brother, Joey Archer, and Stallone would sit with me every day and drain my brain about boxing and Philadelphia. He had never been to Philadelphia,
for heaven's sake.
So I, explained to him about my boxing career and the fact that he said, "Well, you're involved." He knew who my father was, and he said, "Well, you were involved." But then I told him about that and the waterfront and everything else, and. So he mixed two fighters up. He put myself and Wepner was a bleeder. So he was writing the script of Rocky.
Wow.
And,
isn't that stunning?
So
he didn't give you a role,
the gym that I trained there was Passyunk and Moore, and the steps going up into the gym upstairs was a small little gym, and great fighters come out of there. Giardello, a lot of great fighters. So he learned the history of Philadelphia boxing, and he, implied that into the script of Rocky.
Yeah, people don't give him enough credit for his writing. I mean, some of these movies that he has written are really spectacular movies.
Oh no, he was a great writer. I don't know. Sly's a funny kid. He's just There's a lot of things he should have done that he didn't do, but that's his problem, not mine.
Like what?
There's, we should have sat down and gave proper recognition as to where he got his story from. He never did.
Yes, of course, but that never happened.
I think Wepner just sued him and got a lot of money out of him, actually.
Wow.
He's got his own problems. And,
sure.
He never offered any of us to work in any of the films.
Right.
Yep. Which, again, should have happened probably. And whether I would have or not is another story.
Right. He owed you the honor to do it, though.
He did a small role in Farewell My Lovely, which was a pretty good movie.
Yep.
And he was just up and coming then, and everybody's under the impression that he was this poor kid that came out of the streets, which is a bunch of garbage. He was his mother was married to a wise guy from Florida, and Stallone went to school in Switzerland.
That's right.
He never poor in his life, So.
Yeah.
He doesn't know that much about the streets and stuff like that, but we sat down and explained a lot of stuff to him. But he's all right. It was all right. It's just God bless him.
Wow. Well, what I'm amazed about, Cleveland Williams, for instance, was a spectacular boxer. That guy
Cleveland was a good fighter. I'll tell you a funny story. I was I would take fights on like a day or 2 weeks notice. If somebody called me and said you want to do that. So they had a kid called Terry Daniels, who was a ranked fighter, and they were looking for a fight for Joe Frazier. And so the promoter called me up and he said, "Do you want to fight Terry Daniels in Houston, Texas?" And I said, "When?" He said, "You'll take the fight?" I said, "Send me a ticket." So Lou Viscusi was the promoter. And I showed up in Houston, and he said, "My God, you're in shape." I said, "Well, aren't you supposed to be in shape when you come to fights, man?" And I just happened to be training. I was in a foul mood, and I started training pretty hard.
Right.
So I knocked out this kid in the first couple rounds. I beat him bad, really bad.
Right.
So then I flying back to Philly on a plane with Yank Durham because they were there watching this kid fight because they were looking for a fight for Frazier. And Durham said to me, he said, "If you beat one more good fighter, you can have the Frazier fight." I said, "I'll tell you what. You name the place and the time, and I'll show up." He said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "Shit, listen, you pick whoever you want. You just call me and tell me when the fight is, and I'll show up." So he called me a week later. He said, "In 2 weeks' time, you want to fight Cleveland Williams?" I said, "Where?" He said, "Texas." I said, "No problem. Send me a ticket." So I went to...
Are they paying you decent money to fight Cleveland Williams?
No, what, decent money, a couple grand?
That's not decent money.
There was no money in boxing at that time. I mean, there were. I think I made $3,000 for that fight. So I went to Houston and I beat Cleveland Williams, and I beat him badly. I mean, it was
tell me about the fight. He was a good fighter.
Cleveland was a great fighter. Cleveland, I'll tell you what, he hit me harder than anybody in my career. I was in very good shape when I fought him. Thank God. Because he caught me in the third round. He hit me a left hook, and I could feel it in my toes.
Whoa.
And I fell back into the corner, and he come charging into me, so I thumbed him, and I cuffed him, and I spun him around, and I whispered in his ear, "Oh, man, you're never going to touch me the rest of the night." And I gave him a boxing lesson. And then in the 8th, 9th, 10th round, I was hitting him combinations, and when I seen his knees buckle, I grabbed him under the elbows and pulled him up into me and said, "Don't be falling down on me, man. We've been dancing all night." Because I knew if he went the distance, it would help. He was still going to be able to make money fighting. You know what I mean? And he was still boxing. So, we won 10 rounds, and I won a very unanimous decision. And then Terry Daniels got the Frazier fight, and Cleveland Williams fought George Savallo on the same card.
Right.
And nobody would fight me after that because I was in shape. And I was banging people out. Cleveland, you're right. Cleveland was a very, very good fighter and a very credible fighter.
So you didn't get to fight Frazier, and you didn't get to fight Ali either.
Well, Ali, when Ali came out here to fight Norton, he was supposed to fight me. I came to California and San Diego to fight Norton, and they stole a split decision. I mean, it was I could have actually sat on the stool in the 9th round and won the fight. The end of the 9th round, the people were standing on the chairs. He and I were really. It was a great fight.
Wow.
And when they rang the bell 3 times and nobody heard it, so the referee finally heard the bell ring and he came and separated us. And I was going back to my corner, and he ran across the ring and hit me behind the head, and drove me into the corner. And Joey Almus, the commissioner, jumped up in my corner and said, "If you can't continue, you just won the fight." Well, now I'm angry. I said, "Will you quit? I'll kill this clown." And I realized when I got out there in the 10th round, I'm in San Diego in his hometown.
That's right.
And I gave him one of the worst. I mean, I cut him up pretty bad and stuff, but he got a decision, but he would never fight me again.
What do you remember about Jordan?
I stayed in San Diego, and I knocked out a few people, and I fought a guy that no one else wanted to fight, Henry Clark, and I took the title of the California State Heavyweight title from Henry Clark.
Wow.
And
you got a chance to fight Foreman, right?
I fought Foreman before all this. I fought Norton in 72. The Foreman fight was in 69. Well, but in 1968, I fought a guy that nobody wanted to fight, Manuel Ramos, and they were looking to make a title fight with him. So I fought down in South Africa 11 days before the fight. I had already agreed to fight Manuel Ramos and Ali, so in L.A., and I fought a kid, Jimmy Richards. I went down to Africa, and I spent a month down there training.
Right.
So I beat this kid. I came back up, and I went out there. I got off the plane in New Jersey, got on a plane and went to L.A., and fought Manuel Ramos. And again, when I showed up in L.A., Pernatza said to me, "Jesus, you're in really good shape, aren't you?" And I said, "Not only that, but I'm going to knock this kid out." "Hey, oh, you can't do that, my God. We're looking to make an Ali fight." I said, "Well, guess what?" And I knocked him out in the 7th round.
Holy smoke.
Then they offered me, then no one wanted to fight me again. So then they offered me the picture of the Great White Hope with James Earl Jones.
Right.
And the deal was done because Raymond Patriarca from Rhode Island had made a deal with what's his name? He worked at Fox. He's got a famous family. Anyway,
where's Al Blumpkin when we need him?
Made a deal for me to come out and fight, and do this picture. So they brought me out from New Jersey, and the deal was already. I was supposed to just sit down and sign the contract.
Right.
And the guy and in fact, Gambino's nephew was going to be my manager. He was getting 10%, and Mushi Calhoun was a great old-time fighter, was the coordinator, special effects guy. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Jack, it's just a great idea." And I said, and I listened to the producer, and he said, "Well, you're going to go to Spain for 6 months. We're going to pay you $1,500 a week," which was a lot of money in those days.
That's right.
For somebody for his first picture to go,
Uh-huh.
And he said, and I said, "Wait a minute, I just beat the number 2 heavyweight in the world, and I've got a shot at fighting for the title, maybe. And you want me to quit boxing for 6 months and go to Spain, and you're going to pay me how much money?" And he said, $1,500 a week. I said, "I give that away in tips. You ain't paying me nothing. You ain't giving me nothing." I said, "I appreciate the offer." I said, "But and this guy, Eddie, oh God, his last name will come to me. He was sweating bullets out in the hallway listening to this because he had made the deal with Raymond that I was going to do this picture."
Ah, okay.
And so the guy said to me, "You mean you're turning me down?" And I said, "I don't know whether this is really business is for me." And he said, "But this deal's already done." I said, "Well, there's a guy, Jim Beattie, he just retired from boxing. He's a big white kid from Minnesota, and he needs a job. He's got 6 mouths to feed. You should call him on the phone. He's a nice kid."
Okay.
And he said, "You're kidding me." I said, "No." I said, I appreciate the offer, but, and said to me, "Are you crazy, man?" I said, "Listen, I got other things to do." And I left, and Eddie, what the hell was his last name? Oh, God, he was sweating bullets. I said, "I'll talk to Raymond, don't worry about it." So I'm leaving Fox, and I'm walking down the steps, and James Earl Jones is walking up the steps.
Yep.
And he just show you how small Hollywood is.
Yeah.
He stopped me and he said, "Aren't you Jack O'Halloran?" And I said, "Aren't you James Earl Jones?" He said, I got to ask you a question. You just told Hollywood, because it was the biggest budgeted movie in Hollywood at the time.
Right. That's right.
He said, "You just told Hollywood to stick this picture business up their butt." And I said, "Well, if you want to look at it that way." He said, "I got to shake your hand. I never met anybody who'd done that before." And we became friends after that. And I was friends with Steve McQueen because he tried to get me to do the Thomas Crown Affair in Boston. I turned him down.
Oh, I love that movie.
And how come you turned him down for that?
I was just, he came to Boston to do the Thomas Crown Affair, and we took care of him. We watched out for him, you know what I mean? And he and I became very good friends. Steve was a super individual. He and I became good friends, and he said, "Listen, man, come down on the set. I'll get you your SAG card. You got to go. You got to do this movie with me. Come back to Hollywood, man. We'll have a ball."
Okay.
And I said, I don't think so, man. He said, "Jack," he said, "don't be crazy. Come back to Hollywood." And I said, and I was involved with some really nice people in New England. Right. And I was boxing, and I was undefeated, and I was, just a lot of things in my life going on. And I wasn't ready, I don't think, and I should have probably done it, actually, to be second-sighted, So I turned him down. He used to call me on the phone, and he did a picture called The Towering Inferno. His name was Captain O'Halloran. He couldn't wait to call me on the phone and say, "How'd you like your name up on the screen, man?" And then when I turned down The Great White Hope, he said to me, "Are you crazy?" We went out to dinner. He said, "What's the matter with you, man? We're trying to get you out here to Hollywood." I said, "Man, I'm not ready for this shit." I said, I got things to do. And he was just, I like Steve a lot. Steve was a good friend.
Yeah. Hey, have you guys ever seen Soldier in the Rain with Steve McQueen and Jackie Gleason?
Steve McQueen was a tremendous actor, man. And he was, he did Sand Pebbles was an amazing picture.
That was a great movie. Yes.
He did some great pictures. And when he did the war picture, he did the stunts for his stunts and the guy following him on a motorcycle.
Yep.
And he was just a great. It was crazy. He used to drive out to the desert and windsurf and stuff. And Steve was he was a very giving individual. He was a really a kind-hearted person. He was a good guy, boy.
Yeah. Was he with Ally McGraw then?
No, God, he was with his wife, who was an amazing woman. She gave up a great career for him, and Steve just didn't know how to say no to people. Ally McGraw went to his house for a party and left with him.
Yeah, right.
And Ally was Allie's a super lady and a gorgeous woman, but his wife Nell is a gorgeous woman, and Steve was just like a little kid. He just didn't know how to say no to people, and Allie took him on a whirlwind, boy. He just. he fell in love,
He did.
He was. I asked him. I said, "What? Are you crazy, man?" He said, "Oh, man." He said, "I don't know." He said, "I can't get this chick out of my head." And I said, "Wow." So when I retired from boxing, because I had a disease called acromegaly. Ooh. And when I got done boxing, in 74 and 75, they called me on the phone. They said, I had an agent. When I lived in San Diego, I did a lot of commercials when I was California heavyweight champion. So
right.
She called me on the phone. She said, "They want you to do a movie." And I said, "What movie?" She said, "Farewell, My Lovely," starring Robert Mitchum, and I think you should take the film. You should do it.
Okay. And
I looked around. I was in a bar shooting pool. I owned a couple construction companies. And I said, I think it's time. And I said, "What do I have to do?" She said, "We got to go up to New York and meet this director at the Sherry Netherlands," which made me laugh because I used to meet Frank Costello at the Sherry Netherlands all the time. and meet this director. So I had to go to Boston anyway and take care of some business, and I'm driving back down with a kid that used to drive me, and I go up to meet this guy, and he and I walk in the room, and there's Larry Zonka, not Zonka, the linebacker for Chicago. Great ball player, Jesus.
Dick Butkus?
Butkus is there, and Kerr Harris. the guard for Chicago, Karras.
Oh yeah, Alex Karras.
Yeah, Alex. All those big guys. You know what I mean?
You got all the characters. All the characters in one room.
Yeah, they were there waiting to try out for this part, right?
Oh,
so I walk into the room and this guy, the director, comes out and he grabs me. He says, "Oh, come in here." And I had a mustache and I was dressed like a gangster. I had a white linen suit on with a blue shirt. Because I had just done some business in Boston. I just come down, and I said, he said, "You're the guy. I'm telling you, you're the guy." And he said, "Did you have a hair lip under that mustache?" I said, "I'll give you a hair lip." So he took me out to the elevator, and he kept saying to me, "I'm telling you, you're the guy. We're going to bring you out. I'm telling you." I looked at him. I said, "Man, you ain't a fag, is it? You get all these people up here and try." I said, "What's the deal with this? Either I'm doing it or I'm not." And so sure enough, 2 days later, I get a phone call, and I fly out to L.A. and do a screen test with Harry Dean Stanton and at this guy's house out in Mulholland, Malibu Drive.
Yeah.
And Robert Mitchum seen the screen test, and he said, "It's either him or I don't do the movie."
Wow.
So
how did you and Mitchum get along while you were doing it?
He became like my father. Robert and I got very close. He was great. You couldn't go to a better acting school than Mitchum. Mitchum took me by the hand, boy, and he just and the movie showed it. I mean, the movie turned. If I listened to what he told me, I would have won the supporting actor that year.
What did he tell you? What didn't you do?
Well, he made an appointment for me to see Johnny Carson at the Polo Lounge. And Johnny Carson was with Ed McMahon at the time. Ed McMahon was his sidekick. And I knew Ed McMahon from Philadelphia. He's from Philly. And he was like a general in the reserves. He was a high-ranking guy in the Army Reserve. And we used to buy surplus arms from him out of the we used to do deals with him. And
out of his trunk.
Well, they had a lot of surplus stuff, and he made the introductions, and we used to buy and sell helicopters and stuff to different countries and stuff like that. They're always looking to make money here and there, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. He didn't want anybody. He didn't want me to tell Carson that I even knew him. When I walked into the Polo Lounge, he was like, "Man, just would you just meet me for the first time?" I said, "No problem." So I sit down, and Johnny Carson said, "Boy, Farewell My Love was a great film. Mitchum's a dear friend, and he thinks that you should be nominated for supporting actor." And I agree. He said, "If you come on my show, I will get you nominated." And I said, I sat there and I thought about it. I said, "Your show's live, isn't it?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "Why?" I said, "Well, I got one problem." I said, if I come on your show, you're going to ask me about my father. And if you ask me about my father, I'm going to ask you where the men's room's at. He said, "You'd get up and leave?" And I said, "Yeah, because nobody talks to me about my father because it's nobody's business." And Mitchum knew, and Mitchum, big mouth, told him. And so he said to me, he said, no. He said, "I'll tell you what, we'll give you a list of questions that we can ask you." And I sat there and I thought about it, and I said, no disrespect, John. I said, but you're the biggest reporter in the industry today. And you got Albert Anastasia's son sitting on your set, and you're not going to ask me about my father? I said, I appreciate the offer and everything, but I think I have to pass.
Wow.
And then the man said, "Are you nuts?" I said, I really do appreciate it. And Mitchum called me and he said, "What is wrong with you? It's Hollywood. Nobody gives a shit." And I should have listened to him, but
Yeah, wow.
I was very protective of where I came from. You understand?
Of course. Sure. Understand completely.
And I lived under the code of Omerta, and I was very protective of what I did. So, I'm one of, I'm probably one of 4 people of my age that have been across that are still alive, that have been across the country, and I met every Don. I spent time with Giancana. I spent time in every state with everybody, and and in Italy as well. So,
yeah, sure.
I just didn't want to, and I didn't want to bring that into the film industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I did.
I mean, I could have made phone calls and had things done, and things would have been done, but I didn't want that following behind me. So I wanted to, if I was going to do the film business, I wanted to do it on my own, and it was a dumb mistake because, you know, the picture came out, did very well, and I was doing King Kong when the Oscars were announced, and people called me on the phone and they said, you know, I would have voted for you if you'd have ran one ad, just one ad in a Reporter.
Wow.
He said, you know, you would have walked away with the supporting actor deal. And I said, you know, and Robert said to me, boy, what a silly boy you are. And I said, well, you know, it's meant to be, it's meant to be, whatever.
Oh, isn't that something?
I did one picture after another. I did some great movies.
You did?
I've had a lot of fun. I'm still doing it. And, you know,
let me ask you a question, because there was one movie that you turned down that really you should have been in, and that was Jaws. I
had just signed to do a picture called March or Die with Gene Hackman, Catherine Deneuve, and Max von Sydow. Hell of a cast. Ian Holm.
Yep.
And you know, Cubby Broccoli came to my agent's office, Meyer Michigan in L.A., and I was around the corner having lunch with Robert because it was his birthday, and I was getting him drunk. And we were sitting there eating lunch, and these guys are sitting in my agent's office waiting to see me, and to offer me this picture. And they flew all the way into California because they wanted me to do the movie very badly because they saw.
What role would you have played?
Jaws. I would have done the picture Jaws that Richard Kiel.
I understand that, but what was the role in the picture that you would have played? Oh, you were the character of Jaws, not the movie Jaws. The character of Jaws. Now I get it. The one that went to Richard Kiel.
Well, Richard Kiel. I made his career. I turned down 6 movies. He did them all.
Oh my goodness.
The Jaws, the Bond picture. I went back in. I came around the corner. I walked into my agent's office. Robert said, "Do you want to do the movie?" I said, "I don't like the script." I said, "I'm doing March or Die." And he said, "Well, if you don't like the script, the hell with it. Don't do it." And I didn't want to get caught into just being a big guy doing these foolish roles. You know what I'm saying?
Right. No question about it. Right.
Well, I said to my agent, you know, I went back and I walked in his office and I introduced myself to Cubby Broccoli and his son. Yep. And I thanked him for offering me the picture. I said, but you know, you're gonna have to deal with my agent because I've already signed, supposed to go down to Spain to do March or Die, and I don't know the timing factor or anything, but I really appreciate you coming out here and offering it to me, but I don't know whether it'll work out. And my agent said, "Do you want me to get you out of the Dick Richards picture?" And I said, no, I want to go do it because it was another different type of role. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And and it had a good cast in it, and it was, you know, it's unfortunate the director was nuts. Dick Richards, I should have known better.
And who was the star?
Jerry Bruckheimer was involved with that picture as well.
Oh, wow.
And it actually worked out better because the whole crew were the guys that worked on Superman.
Oh, whoa.
So when I was doing the picture down there, Hackman and I were flown up to London to meet Dick Donner about Superman.
Yeah.
And they offered me the role for Superman, and Donner said to me, you know, does it bother you to play a deaf, you know, a mute guy? And I said, not deaf, but just a mute, like this character that you don't speak. And I said, in fact, I embrace it because Jackie Gleason was a good friend of mine, and he did a picture called Gigo and won an Oscar. And I said, if I ever got a chance to do a film with facial and body language and stuff, I want to do it. And Nan fit that to a T because you had Terrence Stamp, who was a vicious general, and Sarah was a man-eater. Yep. Somebody had to relate to the kids.
That was you.
I played this huge brute of a man like a child.
Yeah, I see.
Learning how to.
I can close my eyes and picture it. Yeah, wow.
You know, so I played it like a child, and it worked very well. You know, and I mean, so many people have come up to me and said, "My God, you know, your character scared the hell out of me, but I loved your character so much."
Sure. Do you ever go to those
Comic-Cons? Yeah.
Yeah, Comic-Cons? You ever go to Comic-Cons?
I go to once in a while. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm curious about, I had written a book with Tony Curtis, and when Tony came to Hollywood,
Tony was a good guy.
Wonderful. When Tony came to Hollywood, he lived with Marlon Brando, who obviously was one of the stars, was Superman's father.
Brando and I became very good friends.
Tell me about Marlon. He's a fascinating man.
Marlon Brando is a New York guy. You know that.
Yeah.
And he knew my father. And,
okay.
And when he knew that I was on the movie,
yep,
he couldn't wait to meet me.
Okay.
And Mitchum was another instigator again. Mitchum said to me, "You got to go down on the set and say hello to him. Tell him I said hello." I said, "Robert, I don't." He said, "Do as I'm telling you, please. Go down and tell him I said hello." So Marlon came in. We were working out at Shepperton then, and Marlon came in. He was surrounded by press and stuff. So I walked in down on the set, and he stopped everybody. He said, "Whoa, I got to go talk to this guy over here." And he ran over, and he said, "Oh God!" And I said, "How you doing, brother?" He said, "Oh man," she said, when we talked about New York and because he did On the Waterfront, which was a story about my uncle Tony Anastasia, tough Tony Anastasia.
Yeah.
And we got into a rap, and he loved boxing, and he loved gangsters. He was, Marlon was a fun guy, and he and I became very good friends. He's just. One day I'm sitting down on the set. I'll tell you a great Marlon Brando story. I'm sitting on the set one day, watching him work because you got to understand, when Brando walks on a set, you could hear a pin drop.
Right.
And he was so schooled on what he did, Yep. And he's shooting a shot, and the camera messed up, and he turned around, and the guy said, "Well, we got to stop." And Marlon said, "Keep running that camera. We're not stopping." He turned around, and he turned back into the shot, and nailed it.
Right.
Yeah? So he come down, and he had cue cards everywhere. I mean, they were up his ass. They were everywhere. And he came off the set, and I said to him, I guess some people would be a little leery of asking you this, but what is with the cue cards, man? Oh, he said, I started that with Mutiny and the Bounty. He said, I just don't want the camera to make it look like I studied my lines or something. I looked at him, I said, "Marlon, you are so full of shit." And he laughed. He said, "Yeah." And then he sat there, and he was a great Shakespearean actor, He really was great at Shakespeare. And he ripped off parables of Shakespeare word for word.
Wow.
I mean, with the feeling and everything. And he looked me in the eye, and he said, "That you must know word for word, young man. This shit, cakewalk."
Oh, that's great. That's fabulous.
And he was just a magnet guy, boy. He was just so, I learned a lot from him. He was a talented man. What a talented guy. But he showed me that you don't have to walk around in character all the time. Mitchum taught me that as well.
Right.
And so learning, when you work with people like that, you learn your craft. If you're open-minded enough to do that,
Sure.
And now Jackie Gleason was a great actor, and you said you knew him.
Jackie was a great guy.
Did you know him through Steve McQueen? They did a great movie.
Did The Hustle.
Soldier in the Rain.
The Hustle.
Well, they did The Hustler too. The cool picture. But no, not The Hustler. No, he did that with Newman. No, he Soldier in the Rain. Did a couple things with him, I think. But I didn't know him through McQueen. I met him in Florida. He was involved with some people.
Yeah.
He was friends.
Down in Miami.
Yeah, he was good friends with Meyer Lansky.
That's right.
Yeah. Meyer was like my father.
I was going to ask you if you knew Meyer.
Meyer. When my father was assassinated in '57, Meyer became like a father. Him and Frank Costello looked after me when I was a kid.
Wow, that's fabulous. I
spent a lot of time with Meyer. I knew Meyer extremely well.
A genius of a man.
Oh, brilliant. I'll tell you something. He never wrote anything down.
Right.
I never met a man like that in my life.
Wow.
He was the most incredible. Here's a guy 5'2", and he would make people would walk on the other side of the street. That's how afraid they were of him.
Sure.
He was a trip. I was at 19 years old, and I used to get these phone calls from his lawyer in Florida, and the guy would say, Meyer's going to be at certain place, and he wants you to be there.
Okay.
And there was a restaurant in Philadelphia, a very famous restaurant owned by the Jew mob, and it was a really nice place.
What was the name of it?
I met him there at 12 o'clock, and he how you doing, kid? Blah, blah, blah. Good. And he said, listen, there's a man coming here. I just want you to sit and listen and just look very serious. And I said, okay. So this guy comes in, and this guy is the CEO of the biggest insurance company in Philadelphia.
Wow.
Which Meyer happened to be the major shareholder of.
Okay.
Or his group, you know.
Right.
So the guy comes in, and he says, hi, Meyer. And Meyer looked at him. He said, it's Mr. Lansky to you today. And I know this guy's in trouble now, boy.
Oh, boy.
And the guy looked at him, and he trembled, and he sat down. And and Meyer said to him, have you taken care of that problem for my friend yet? And the guy looked at me. He said, Mr. Lansky, it's on the top of my desk. He said, and it'll be the first thing I do after lunch. He said, I promise you. So Meyer looked at him, and he said, well, I'll tell you what. He said, if I don't get a phone call from my friend by 3 o'clock, being very appreciative for that situation being handled,
yep.
While you're cleaning your desk out tonight, drop the keys of the Cadillac off to the girl, the receptionist, and I would change schools for my kids if I were you. And then I don't think I would ever look for another job in the insurance company. I was going to say in the United States, but I don't think anywhere in the world. Do I make my point to you? The guy said, and Meyer said, do you think you have time for lunch? And he got up, and I'll tell you something. He had pissed right down his pants.
Whoa.
I looked at this guy, and he turned white like the napkin on the table, man. And he left. And he scurried out of there, right? And right. Meyer looked across the table at me with a smile, quirky little smile of his, and he said, you see, young man, you don't need violence with everything.
Right.
So it was a lesson for me. You understand?
Sure. Of course.
Yeah.
Money talks and bullshit.
Talk it out.
You know.
Wow.
But that's the kind of lessons he gave me. I used to get a phone call. He lived around the corner from the Fontainebleau. He had a condominium, but he also had a home up in Hollywood where his wife lived.
Oh, I see.
Where he lived for years, actually.
Uh-huh.
His girlfriend he kept in the condominium.
Right.
And I would get a phone call from the lawyer, and they'd say, you have a room waiting for you at the Fontainebleau, which he was the owner of the Eden Rock and the Fontainebleau. He owned both of them.
Wow.
But there was a guy from New Jersey who was the front for it. And he said, you're to walk in front of the Fontainebleau, go out on the beach on the water level, and walk south at such and such a time. I said, okay. So he would come up behind me, and he would kick me in the leg. And he would do things like that so that no one could take pictures of us. Sitting down, talking somewhere together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was an incredible individual. I learned so much from him. He was a very, 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 very smart man. Very, very intelligent.
I know he was.
Jack, I never asked you this. Did you have children of your own?
3 daughters.
Ah, okay.
3 daughters. I loved Meyer. There's nothing in the world I would never have done for him. He used to be a place called Wolfie's in Miami.
I loved Wolfie's. It was my favorite place in the whole world.
Great breakfast.
I would come down from Connecticut, go to Wolfie's, and watch the old ladies take all the rolls and put them in their pockets after breakfast. Fabulous.
Well, Meyer used to eat breakfast every morning, you know, when he was down there, when he was in town. So he's sitting at a table, and there's a table in front of him with a guy talking to a guy next to him, and Meyer overhears this conversation because the guy's talking rather boisterous, talking about Meyer Lansky, how Meyer Lansky is his dear friend, and this and that. He's trying to hustle this guy, evidently.
Wow.
So Meyer sat and listened to this for a little while, and this is the type of person he was. He got up, and he walked around in front of the guy, and the guy looked up at him, and he said, can I help you, pal? And Meyer looked at him very calmly, and he said, yeah, I just thought I should introduce myself. My name's Meyer Lansky. And that's all he did. And then he went and sat back down again, and the guy was ushered out of the place. I don't think he ever went back to Wolfie's, but in fact, I don't know whether he ever went to Florida again. But
my, that's just fabulous.
He was that calm and collected. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
He was
was Meyer alive when The Godfather came out?
Yeah.
What did he think of the movie?
Well, they all knew what it was going to be because they told Puzo what he could write.
Okay.
I mean, that movie was. I mean, they told him what to write, and when he wrote the book.
Wow, it's a stunning book. You read the book.
Oh yeah, of course.
That was one of the great books.
Is there anything that would have been put into the book now that wasn't?
Well, that's why I'm writing the books I'm writing there, Sunshine. I'm writing what should have been written before. In other words, The Godfather was compiled of 4 different men in New York.
Uh-huh.
My father being one of them. And one of the things that my father came out of his mouth was when Brando was asked to go into the drug business, and he made a statement. He said, if we touch it, it'll be our children will touch it, and it'll be the downfall of the family, so I think I have to pass. Right. And that's what my father said. And my father died for that. He just wouldn't. He controlled all the ports of New York.
Right.
Genovese wanted the heroin business to come from Sicily, and my father said, "No, I'm not. You're not bringing. That's not what we signed up for. Not on my watch." And they begged him. They said, Meyer said, "But Albert, it's only business." And the night before he died, at the same Sharp Park Sheraton, he met with Carlos Marcellus and Trafcanti, and they begged him, "Please, Albert," because whacking Albert was the worst mistake they ever made because he was the glue. He held them together.
Yep. Wow. Let me ask you one thing before we go,
sure.
Which I find so fascinating. You were making Superman 2 with Christopher Reeve.
Yeah.
And from what I read, you and Reeve, for some reason, didn't get along. What was it between the two of you where you didn't get along?
Yeah,
and what happened?
Let me sort this out with you. You work with somebody for over 3 years, and you have one altercation, and people blow it out of proportion. But it was, Christopher was a young kid. It was the first movie he ever did.
Right.
And you'll never get another Superman like him again. He was brilliant. Yeah. That was Richard Donner. Richard Donner did that, okay?
Okay, yeah.
Because Donner was a great director. And anyway, there was a restaurant in London, my brain's going dead tonight. We all ate there, Beach and Place. It was Italian people. They were friends of mine, and their restaurant business was the San Lorenzo. The restaurant business was booming. It was coming up, and so I brought everybody from the picture in there to eat dinner every night. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it was the food was brilliant. So everybody loved going there to eat dinner. And Christopher Reeve was in there with a bunch of people from the movie, and he's shooting his mouth off about my father and my affiliations with the mafia and all this shit. And the owner of the restaurant, who's my friend, called me on the phone. He said, "Jack, how well do you know this Christopher Reeve kid?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "I don't know. He's in here talking about a lot of things I don't think he should be talking about." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he told me. Oh. So the next day I went to work, and I when I got back when I went to Pinewood, I grabbed him and took him in a room. We had a little discussion, and I said to him, how well do you know me, young man? He said, "Well, I know this." I said, "Well, what gives you the right to mention my father or any of my family business or anything in a restaurant with a bunch of people?"
Yeah, right.
Well, he said, "I thought it was all public knowledge," and I didn't think. I said, "Let me tell you something. Next time you talk to me, you call me Mister. You ever mention my family's name again, you won't finish this movie, kid. You understand that?"
Yeah.
And then I left. I took him out back. We went back out in the hallway. As soon as we got in the hallway, all of a sudden he became like Superman. "You can't talk to me that way. You can't threaten me." What the fuck? Wait a minute. So I grabbed him. I put him up against the wall, and I just get ready to smack the shit. And Richard Donner jumped up on my ear, and he said, "Not in the face, Jack. Not in the face, please." So I broke out laughing. I dropped them on the floor, and I said, you know what, kiddo, you look at that director there, and you better thank him for the rest of your life. And I walked away.
That's great.
And you know, we never really. We spoke after that, and you know, stuff, but not really. There was never any. He stayed away from me. He was kind of scared, I guess.
Yeah.
And no holiday cards did you exchange?
Yeah. You should have
said. Guess. Peter, you're up against the time.
Yeah, I just want to thank Jack for a wonderful hour. I just can't tell you how much I enjoyed listening to your stories. It's wonderful.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Seriously.
Really wonderful. Yeah.
Where are you located at?
I'm in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Oh, wow. I lived there.
You lived in St. Petersburg?
Coquina Key.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
In the 80s, 1980 to 82. Coquina Key West I lived at, right on the water
wow. There. You know, it's not the same city.
On the water, and I was doing some, Conti's son was, in Tampa. And I was
Tampa,
at Bruno's Bakery.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a lot of dear friends down there.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful? Yeah.
Not
the same city. It's grown and grown and grown. They're building high rises and.
Oh, I know. People tell me all the time. I mean,
it's becoming like the south of France is what it's becoming.
It was great living on the water down there. I was there for a year. I kind of liked it. It was good for me. It was out of sight, out of mind.
Wonderful.
And one day I'll tell you the story of why I left.
I'd like to hear it. No, through Ralph, we'll exchange telephone numbers. I'd love to talk to you for more.
Absolutely. Befriend each other on Facebook. I'll put you together.
Forget Facebook. Just give us our telephone numbers. When we get off, you'll email each of us the other's telephone numbers.
All right.
All right.
Jack, do I have yours? I don't know. I have your messenger on Facebook.
Don't say it over the air.
No, don't say it over the air.
Okay, I will leave it to you, Ralph. I will leave it to you, Ralph.
I'll get you together, believe me.
All right. Very good. Thanks so much, Jack. Really a wonderful hour. Thanks so much. Take care.
Pleasure. Be well.
Thank you both. Thank you for listening, everybody. Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. The guest was Jack O'Halloran. The host was Peter Golenbock. The show is Golenbock University. I'm Ralph Tycho, the weak link of it all. Adios, everybody. Thanks for listening. The proceeding was a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production. Thank you for listening.